Hello, Patreon. Thank you for being here. For everyone who is interested in the podcast industry video I mentioned last month, I did sit down and make that, and I'll put a link to it in this post. This will be a pretty short update because everything for me right now is all about just getting the scripts for the second half of the season finished so I can circle back to the beginning and start getting the first episodes ready for production and then ready for release. As I said in recent updates, the size and scope of this season is pretty epic, and there are several reasons why I needed to write the whole thing all the way through to the end before the first episodes could go into production. For one thing, these scripts are being written from the notes I took while researching, and the volume of those notes is probably 3 to 5 times the volume of the finished season. I do have a decent system in place for which notes I have and haven't used, and it's only after creating a first draft that I can look at all the unused information in my notes and determine which pieces absolutely must go in the season and where in the season they should go. So that's a pretty big thing. There's also the issue of how much a narrator's tone can shift over months and months of writing. Even though I'm me, the season spreads such a wide net and touches on so many different topics, and it took such a long time to write it, that even though it can be interesting to shift over to a different tone for certain segments sometimes, the season is still meant to work as one thing. It is very important, particularly when it comes to the main storyline, that this feels like one story, and the person telling it at the beginning needs to be the same person telling it at the end. Otherwise, I can't really expect everyone to stay with me as I cover this much ground. It's also important for certain events to be referenced with the same terminology each time. I need to check the placement and wording of how certain threads are put down so they can later be picked back up without losing everyone, etc. So this month, aside from continuing to write, which has continued to go very well, I sat down and figured out which pieces absolutely have to be written before I can circle back to the beginning and edit that main storyline and get the first episodes into production. In other words, I'm near enough to the end of the season, and I have a solid enough idea of where everything's going to go that I can look at everything I have left to write and see which pieces can be skipped for now. What I've been doing and will continue to do is write only what's necessary in order to prioritize getting into production as soon as possible. It is both exciting and a relief to know how close I am to finishing this thing. I honestly cannot wait to be done, so I'm going to get this update online and get back to work. You take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next month.